Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with JAYONBOXING here giving you a preview and prediction for Vergil Ortiz versus Serhii Bohachuk. But before we get started, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And of course, be sure to leave your picks, your takes, all that down in the comments section below. I greatly appreciate it all. And of course, a little bit of fight info here. We have, as mentioned, Vergil Ortiz taking on Serhii Bohachuk. This will be at the MICHELOB Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, airing live on DAZN in the junior middleweight division with no titles on the line. Now, in some ways, this is a very under-the-radar fight. It's not for a title, not even necessarily a big-time eliminator or something with much directly on the line per se. It's not the biggest show, but this fight could legit be a Fight of the Year candidate. In one corner, we have the hard-hitting Ortiz with a bit more speed, a bit more complete, a complete knockout rate as well, and on the verge of very big things. In the other corner, Bohachuk has a bit more experience against maybe slightly better foes, has some great power and some decent skill as well, and has a 96% KO ratio. Damn, he can barely crack compared to Ortiz. Either way, obviously both solid punchers. And what's more, a win for either guy over either guy really sets them up in a very percolating 154-pound division. A very interesting fight because of those reasons indeed. So, before we break this fight down, let's get into some of the biggest questions about this fight heading into it. First question is, how will the relative inactivity impact Vergil Ortiz? Yes, Ortiz has fought twice this year. That makes him sound busy, but it's not quite telling the full story. Prior to 2024, Ortiz has been sidelined for all of 2023 and much of 2022 for health reasons. He wasn't allowed to be active. Then, in a pair of fights in this calendar year, Ortiz has seen less than 6 full minutes of action. Not rounds, minutes of action, stopping Frederick Lawson and Thomas Delorme both in under a round in January and April, respectively. That, you would have to imagine, impacts Ortiz. Not a lot of rounds, new to the weight, and in with a voluminous puncher that can certainly crack. It will be interesting to see how well he balances that all out on the night. I would also ask, does Bohachuk have the chin to withstand Ortiz? Serhii Bohachuk might be the biggest puncher that Vergil Ortiz has ever faced, both in terms of his power and his record, but also based upon the fact that Ortiz is entering this kind of new phase at junior middleweight. So the question of whether or not Serhii has enough power isn't really one worth asking. So I won't. Instead, what you do wonder is whether or not Serhii can take the power coming back his way. Bohachuk has lost only once, in March of 2021. It was in a fight he was winning and expected to win. He was stopped viciously by a reasonable puncher in Brandon Adams. Ortiz is more than a reasonable puncher. He can bang, and he seems to have carried his power north of welterweight. Yes, Ortiz himself can be dented. He's been hurt before, but you still have to wonder what Ortiz does to Bohachuk if he lands as clean as Adams did way back when. And finally, I would ask, can either fighter afford the loss? Look, I'm not big on writing fighters off after a single loss. Recover, rebuild, and you can come back if matched correctly and you didn't take too bad a beating. And obviously, no one ever wants to lose, so let's get that out of the way, of course, as well. But in this case, I think a loss is really costly for either man. For Bohachuk, it's his second loss against 2 of the best 3 fighters he's faced. That's not a good look for a guy 29 years old, looking to basically try to get his first crack at a title. And for Vergil, with the stop and start of his career and the inability to really change weight safely at this point if something goes wrong here, crashing out at 154 could be a real setback. Obviously you want to win, but both guys really do need it in this case. So, all that said, let's get into this pick and break this fight down. Starting off with Ortiz. For Ortiz to win, you want to beat him with your speed. Now, so often do I say, and because it makes sense, of course, that fighters with speed and power shouldn't worry so much about power and should focus on that explosiveness. So I'm going to say that here. Bohachuk is the slower fighter and is looking to get forward and land with authority. Don't match fire with fire and look to gamble, giving Bohachuk his best chance. Instead, beat him to the punch and work that speed. Slip in those faster shots, bust him up and push him back. Then get that power going as you create those openings. You don't need to force the power when you let your hands go loosely and with some zip on them. He has less chance of seeing those shots and you can catch him coming in, and that's when they're going to be most effective anyway. So work that speed more than that power and let it build as the fight wears on. I would also say counter with the left hook. If there's a shot that Bohachuk is open for, it's the left hook. That's not just because he was wrecked by that shot against Adams, it was noticeable before and after that. It's just a mechanical thing. Bohachuk likes to throw the 1-2 right down the middle. but he throws it so often that he can sometimes get lazy with it. Sometimes that means he throws the jab and the defensive hand drops below his chin and he is exposed. With Ortiz, you have a fighter with fast hands and power, a fighter with decent accuracy as well. If he times that glitch in Bohachuk, he can hurt him with that shot. You throw a well-placed left hook anyway, so it's a shot you want to work regardless. Get that flaw out of Serhii by feinting and making him commit, all the better, and you have a much better chance. So set it up and crack him with that left hook and you should have some success. And finally, build into the action. As I have mentioned in the preview, my biggest worries for Ortiz will be how he fares at 154 against a legit threat and coupling that with his inactivity. That to me means that he shouldn't come out guns blazing. You don't want to get caught out early. You want to get a feel for the contest, build into it. Doesn't mean give away rounds, but it means you can't assume he is some smaller 147 pounder that you can walk down. He is longer and taller, and you need to calibrate all of this. Once you get worked into the fight and find your range, then ramp it up and press him back. Bohachuk doesn't fight well backing up anyway, so get that out of him. But you shouldn't rush to that point and risk getting into some trouble. So work with your speed, mix in that left hook, especially when Bohachuk comes forward too aggressively, and build into the fight as the rounds carry on. Now, switching over to Bohachuk, I would start with keep your 1-2s quick. You aren't a basic fighter per se, but you do keep your shot selection pretty simple. That's good and bad. On the one hand, you don't overcomplicate it and get caught out doing too much, but on the other hand, you can get easy to predict and read. So you want to combat that negative by keeping your simple 1-2s quick, smooth, and direct. Don't loop them, don't force them, keep them clean. That allows you to use your reach as well, and you do have an advantage there. This can push Vergil back and allow you to step in and let some of those combos go that you like to throw as well. Ortiz doesn't always move back and fight anyway, so make it less comfortable by trying to win that directional battle along the way with those longer shots. Keep the 1-2 quick and right down the middle to get some success going in this fight. I would also say attack his body in close. One area to test with Ortiz should be the body, as I think you should find some success there. As the taller fighter, it can be tricky. Don't do it from too far out. But you don't always fight as the taller fighter anyway, so when in close, throw some hooks to the body. As mentioned, Ortiz hasn't been super active. Even in his recent fights, hasn't gotten the rounds in. Test his wind. See if he can take those hooks and keep going later on. You can snap a solid left hook to the body anyway, so try to get that in when Ortiz is maybe more worried about the shots upstairs, since you throw a lot of them. Once you get him concerned with both upstairs and downstairs, you have more chances to pick and choose where you throw and really get your work going. So throw that left hand especially to the body, maybe even incorporate a jab to the body and test the endurance of Ortiz and whether or not he does or doesn't have it right now. And finally, don't forget your defense. You can get a bit intent on landing those big blows. It's your style, it's gonna happen. However, you can't do that against someone else that's a big puncher and all offense as well, especially for long stretches in a fight. You have to at least keep your defense in mind. Be a bit more weary of what's coming back, especially the left hook of Ortiz. Just keep that right hand up a bit longer when jabbing. You can't let it dip and give a puncher like Ortiz that opening. You can also help yourself out by tucking that chin just a bit more. You fight straight up and down, but tucking that bad boy into your chest just a little bit might serve you well and make it a little harder for Ortiz to land so clean and so effectively. So keep your jab going nice and long and down the middle, nice and quick. Work the body of Ortiz, test his wind, and keep your defense in mind so you can have some success in this fight. Now, in terms of my pick here, while Bohachuk is a live dog, I'm going with the unbeaten Ortiz in this contest. His speed is what I'm betting on here, feeling that the power that gets there quickest will usually have the best success. That should, in my opinion, be obvious. I think Ortiz starts slow, feeling his man out, but lands with a few big shots to take over, probably the left hand. Bohachuk keeps it competitive and keeps Ortiz on his toes, but I see Vergil getting the better of the exchanges and scoring more often, picking up the rounds. I do think Ortiz might drop him, but I see this being the first decision win of Vergil's career. Winner, Vergil Ortiz via unanimous decision. And in terms of the betting odds here, you have Ortiz coming in as a decent favorite at -300 with Bohachuk coming in at a +220. Currently can't find the over-under, but when I do, I will of course pin that as a top comment in the comments section below. Now, for an underdog in a bout with punchers, Bohachuk is a decent pickup in my opinion, certainly something to look at. Conversely, I don't really like Ortiz at a 3-1. I do think he wins, but this fight has some legit risk. The weight, the puncher involved, Vergil's been hurt in the past, just don't like the value in this one, not something on my radar. But in any event, for now, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of this recording is 38-16 with 18 exact. But let me know your thoughts, your picks, all that good stuff down in the comments. And of course, check out the social media up top. Check out JAYONBOXING.com. And of course, subscribe and check out another video here. Until next time.